correctly. So I'm going to see if I can't stress him out with taking the mic pack for a walk later on in the show. 615-737-1045 is how you get involved with the program. 615-737-1045 is how you let yourself be heard. Remember, Titans General Manager Jon Robinson going to join the show at 11:15. You don't want to miss it. Will Compton at 12:20. I was texting him, Lucas. Good morning, by the way. I miss you. This is awkward. I don't know how to do this over Zoom anymore.
Hello,
but I think
good
we're
morning.
going to make this work today. Oh,
yeah,
good.
We're
already out of sync.
Are you sweating bullets yet?
Am I sweating? Of course I'm sweating. I'm over 200 pounds, and it's 100 degrees outside.
Sounds lovely.
Thank you for that. But with Will, I texted him earlier asking, what do you think it'd be a funny gag if we had you show up to Titans training camp? Like just out here panhandling for a job, considering that he remains unsigned? And that is something I don't know if he got cleared of the protocol, but he will be here in some form or fashion at 12:20 later today.
Have him show up like full pads, just full gear, helmet, shoulder pads, everything. Like I know they're not in full pads yet, but just have him show up that way and just see what happens.
Do you think he has like a full set of pads just chilling at home? Do you think that's something that he's just walking around the house in full on football uniform?
Yeah, I feel like maybe he has like a Titans shrine somewhere in there with a full on like helmet, shoulder pad, jersey, everything.
Well, it's entirely possible. But regardless, we will catch up with William later on in the show. We are going to get to the biggest thing that I'm looking for today, day one of camp. Oh, we got celebrity appearances if you're watching on Zoom. George Walker of the Tennessean popping in the background. A fresh shave, it looks like. Or is that natural, Georgie? What's happening? 615-737-1045. So I'm going to get into the things that I'm most looking for today. Now, I will say to you, Lucas, that they have put our zone tent directly in front of the third field. This is a problem. This is a conflict because I am expressly forbidden from all things third field, and yet they have intentionally placed me here to test my restraint because there's a lot of things happening out here at St. Thomas Sports Park, and I'm just happen to sit in front of the field that I can't talk about any of them. But that's okay.
That makes me happy. I like that they did that to you.
You know what that's called? Sweet justice. We're going to get into the conversation about the thing that I'm looking forward to most at training camp today, but I feel like we have to start with this Julio Jones situation because Jon Robinson, as you heard in Lucas's update, made a statement about the vaccination protocols that are new basically as of this morning and that masked players or unvaccinated players would be masked during stretch, things of this nature, just basically making everybody aware of the rules in the new world order that we have to be making sure that we're following due to COVID protocols. But I honestly thought that he was going to get up there and make a statement about this Julio Jones situation because it's a bizarre story that's just kind of landed in our laps yesterday. A sports reporter named Larry Brown at LB Sports put this out on Twitter, broke a story about Titans wide receiver Julio Jones and Roddy White, who, of course, was with Julio was in Atlanta for a great deal of time and was with Julio at the start of his career. So they're being sued by a cannabis company for alleged fraud and money laundering. Apparently, the name of the business is Genetics, and they filed a lawsuit in LA County Superior Court back in July that names Julio Jones, Roddy White, and a company that Roddy White owns called SLW Holdings as the defendants. Now, Genetics is apparently leasing a facility in Desert Hot Springs, California, which sounds like the perfect climate to grow pot. Not that I would know. But in February 2020, they're growing cannabis, they're cultivating cannabis in accordance with state regulations, the article says. And it gets kind of out of whack when Genetics files a complaint that alleges a guy that they hired named John Van Beek to oversee the build-out and the management of this facility they are alleging guilty of many improper or violations of basically his terms of employment, whether he's charging excessive money for the build-out, not providing, legitimate invoices, like just basically bad business practices that if you're not careful will get you sued. And the article says that Genetics is accusing Van Beek of failing to provide budgets, expenditures, invoices, other business-related paperwork, and that Jones and White, who of course were teammates with the Falcons, went behind the company's back to work with Van Beek. Now, Roddy White has put this out, or put a statement out. They've updated the story since this morning. And Roddy White's saying that the allegations are completely false, says he did a background check and learned that the two people involved with genetics are felons that put the company's cannabis license in jeopardy. And he says that they are trying to have the men removed from the company, that their attempt to remove them spurred the legal complaint in response. So he's alleging that this is some kind of backlash from actions that they took internally with this company called Genetics. But basically, Roddy White and Julio Jones are financing this company from start to finish, and then they would have that. What they're saying is they have no reason to steal from themselves. So Julio Jones is obviously not going to be made available to the media today. He was not on the list of players that we are going to be provided. But this is a fascinating story. I don't know what the implications are. It sounds like in this article, and I want to be fair to Larry Brown, the guy that broke this, but it just sounds like they put Julio Jones and Roddy White's name on an article and on a lawsuit that is really about this James Van Beek character. So I'd be curious to know. I mean, I guess we'll have to ask Jon Robinson about this at 11:15. Hey, John, did you know that your star wide receiver is being sued for alleged money laundering? Happy training camp. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. So we will get to that over the course of today's show. And what we're going to do coming up next is I'm going to provide you some observations. Training camp is going till 11:15 today. We're doing the show out here live, courtesy of our friends at Two Rivers Ford, and we'll be able to provide you, some updates throughout the course of the day. But during the portions of practice that I've been able to watch so far this morning, I'm going to tell you what my main takeaways have been so far, and then we'll get into this conversation about Mike Vrabel's opening press conference yesterday. We played it for you live on the air. We reacted to it a little bit, but I think there's a few more bits of that press conference that caused a pretty big disconnect with the fan base yesterday in a way that made social media toxic while we were all tweeting out quotes from the Titans head coach. So we'll do that coming up next and get into what observations are you looking to learn about from Titans training camp. Obviously, you guys aren't going to be able to come out here with us today. It's unfortunate. It's a beautiful day outside of being just face-melting hot at St. Thomas Sports Park. The new construction, I'm actually sitting right next to it, and it is very imposing. They've literally built a wall to keep the people building, more and more apartments for all the transplants moving down here to keep people from peeking in at St. Thomas Sports Park from across. What's this lake called, Will? Amulet Lake? I think it's called Amulet Lake. I'm pretty sure that's anyway. 615-737-1045. All that and more coming up next. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
3, the Pro Way, taking you inside the transition from retired athlete to business. Every Monday morning at 8 with Tennessee football legends Joey Kent and Kevin Dyson. 3, the Pro Way. Download now at Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and wherever you get your podcasts.
pictures of Julio Jones and A.J. Brown. A.J. Brown back on the practice field. Very exciting for all the Titans fans who have long awaited at least videos and pictures of wide receiver. Is he wide receiver one? We had this conversation yesterday. Who was the caller that was worried about Julio Jones getting pissy if he doesn't get enough targets?
Yeah, I can't remember the name, but that was his concern.
How are we doing this on day one of training camp? Like, how is this? You should be excited. You should be happy. There's so much more time to worry about things that are going to go wrong throughout the course of the season. Because of course there's going to be things that go wrong throughout the course of the season. But like to already be asking if Julio Jones is going to, just turn rogue from within if Ryan Tannehill isn't throwing him the ball 10 times a game. It was funny yesterday. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. What are you looking for from day one of Titans training camp? What are you most curious about? Because for me, it really is A.J. Brown. Now, I'm going to be going back and forth basically during the commercial breaks to see how much of practice I can actually get a glimpse of because they are on the field furthest away from the radio tent right now. But just to see him go through warm-ups and walkthroughs, seeing him go through stretch, Taylor Lewan out here as well for the first time in quite some time. A lot of energy, very excited to see him out there if you're a Titans fan because your offense is what you are going to continue to have these high expectations for. This was something that I got asked about yesterday while I was doing the A to Z Sports Instagram stories. I do the Titans Q&A basically every Tuesday on the A to Z Sports Instagram story. And I was getting questions about, who's under more pressure heading into the season, whether it's Shane Bowen or Todd Downing, the coordinators, because on one hand, most of you were calling for Shane Bowen's head after last season, after everything went awry with the defense. And an easy way to assign, blame is to look at a coach because it's the face that you identify with that unit rather than assigning blame across the board in, whether it's equal parts or whether you're giving the players more credit or blame for performing or not performing rather than the coaches. It's just not a great way to do the analysis, to point out one person and be like, you're what's wrong with everything that's happening with this side of the ball this year, because it's just not that. But when it comes to pressure heading into this season, I think that's more on Todd Downing. 30.7 points per game is ridiculous. It was as good an offense as any in football last year. They were tied for second with the Buffalo Bills in terms of yards per game. They were as efficient and as deadly a unit as the Kansas City Chiefs, as the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, as any team in football in 2020. So now Todd Downing, whether he's going to live up to those expectations or if the defense is able to pull a little more of their own weight, and that makes a difference so that the offense doesn't have to score north of 30 a game, it is going to be curious to watch, and it's going to be curious to see how long a leash people are willing to give him if the offense, understanding that they have a new toy, bright, shiny new object in Julio Jones out there trotting around on the practice field in a number 2 jersey, makes you happy to see. But it also raises people's expectations in a way that I think, may not be beneficial in terms of public opinion for Todd Downing. Because Mike Frable was talking about his defense yesterday, and he was asked specifically about how much, clearly he's expressed faith in Shane Bowen to be able to promote him and give him the full-time gig of defensive coordinator. But then he was asked, specifically about your defense as a whole, how much faith do you have in it? And this is what the Titans head coach had to say.
A lot. A lot. I can't wait to watch these guys play, practice, perform. Because we go back, and our job is obviously with coaches, especially, you're looking at the negatives. You can remember every time you called something and they hit you on it or something bad happened. But when you go back and you watch, there's a lot of great snaps, there's a lot of great defense. But we have to be better. We have to be better on third down. We have to go and force the quarterback and make him be uncomfortable. And we have to cover guys at the sticks and all those things that we teach. Because, again, that's where the problems occurred. I don't think that it was like, just miserable. There's a lot of good snaps in there. And then, unfortunately, when you play bad third down defense, you're just giving them more opportunities. And we know with more opportunities comes more production. So, that's something that we hit hard in the off season. We were teaching it and practicing it. So hopefully that will start to show up, and then we'll be obviously practicing it out here.
Titans head coach Mike Frable at his opening press conference yesterday, before training camp officially began today. So I think the thing that was the buzzword, right? Because a lot of people got triggered on the internet after you started to see tweets come out with that particular line about Mike Frable saying he doesn't think that everything on defense was miserable last year. Because of course, we can't have a nuanced conversation about, he's probably right. It's not like everything that they did on defense last year was abhorrent. It was just the third down percentage made it feel that much worse. Now, if you don't want to parse the details on that, I understand. You don't have to. That's what I'm here to do for you. But when he's talking about, not being outright miserable, I think that's probably the biggest disconnect between Mike Vrabel and this fan base. Because, Lucas, we had that poll question yesterday where we're asking people, what one question would you want to know from Mike Vrabel? And I was surprised with how toxic the responses were to some of that. Yeah, there was a lot of cut your penis off for a Super Bowl jokes in the mentions. There were a lot of re-sign Will Compton. But there was just kind of a general attitude towards Mike Vrabel from Titans fans, and Twitter's a poisonous place anyway. But there was just a general poisonous attitude that I didn't quite understand. And then to see how much further that reaction, the flames on that reaction were fanned by the idea that he is saying, I don't think everything on defense was miserable last year. And that's been the biggest contention by the fan base all year long, is that the Titans defense was absolutely miserable last year. They are going to have to they're going to have to prove it, basically, to everybody involved. Now, I saw some good snaps from Jackrabbit Jenkins already out here today that John Glennon tweeted out a video, him basically working underneath A.J. Brown and making a play on the ball that you don't expect somebody at the Titans defensive back to do that to A.J. Brown. Now, Malcolm Butler, probably their best defensive back last year, probably their best defensive player last year after Jeffrey Simmons was the most double-teamed interior defensive lineman in football. And his impact was negated just because of the fact that he was drawing that much more attention and there was nobody up front to really help him that way. The upgrades that they think they have made are going to be the story of the entire season, basically. Yes, we have the theme of the offense. Can they sustain? Can they even advance in what they were able to do last year? Whether maybe not points per game, but whether it's red zone percentage, whether they are able to take some step forward, given the fact that simply Julio Jones is on the team now, the offensive line is returning healthy. Taylor Lewan out here today for the first time in some time, as we talked about. But that is going to hover over that theme of has the defense legitimately been fixed, is going to hover over these guys all year long. We await Caleb Farley to see at what point he will be able to make a return for training practice. We await Bud Dupree in his rehabilitation from his ACL injury. Nobody is putting timelines on these things here. And so that uncertainty will do nothing, basically, to abate the stress that Titans fans are experiencing because they don't know whether they can trust their defense or not after knowing a year ago that they could not trust their defense. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. By the way, we're going to do Dumbest Thing in Sports a little earlier today, given that Jon Robinson is going to join us at 11:15. So make sure you're sticking around for that. You think John's going to be willing to do a Dumbest Thing in Sports with us?
I would love to know if you would. I'm very curious. What do you think Jon Robinson's Dumbest Thing in Sports is this week?
Probably us, just being generally back out here.
Deadpan said you.
Yeah. I mean, I get that one a lot. I get that one. I mean, maybe it's not surprisingly often, but I get that one quite a bit. It stopped shocking me. So if that was Jon Robinson's response, it would not shock me one bit. Outside of A.J. Brown and Julio Jones and the obvious star attractions that are going to be out here today, Mike Vrabel, and he was asked a question by Gentry Estes about Nick Saban and Nick Saban's stance that last season was more difficult on defensive players because of the lack of reps, the lack of offseason, which absolutely was so. I wrote about this yesterday after we did Vrabel's press conference. This was the first time. Now, obviously, I wasn't out here because we were doing the radio show in studio yesterday, but it was the first time that Titans media had met with Mike Vrabel in person in 18 months. And there was just a sense of normalcy, a sense of comfort in a return almost to the routine that we've known year in and year out outside of what COVID robbed us of. Football media availability, the least of things that COVID has robbed us of. But you know what I'm saying. And the larger public doesn't care about that. But I think from my perspective, looking at that, it only makes all the sense in the world that would be the same thing for the players. That last year's rookie class and the undrafted guys that came in a year ago, it's so hard to make the transition from the college game to the pros, just from a general standpoint, much less last year when there is no certainty. All these workout facilities are shut down. You're trying to build a home gym in your garage on the fly and then realizing that, COVID has caused issues in the distribution chain. So now I can't even order the equipment or the Peloton that I need to stay in shape. This was Mike Vrabel. So Mike Vrabel was asked about defense specifically, but then he took it more into, how big a difference having this offseason specifically has already made for three players in particular.
I just think that any time that you don't have those reps and you're used to having them, that's we were excited to be able to work with the guys that were here, either for the entire offseason or the ones that came in at some capacity, throughout it. That's all I can say. I can't really tell you, why or what happened because we didn't have it last year. I just can tell you that, I saw some guys make some significant progress, guys that were here. Anthony Ferkser, Tier Tart, Christian Fulton, those guys that just and I see them now, and I mean they look different. They don't look like the guys that we coached last year.
For a head coach that rarely gives individual praise like that publicly, it means something that Mike Vrabel is saying, yeah, these three in particular, and among others that were here for the offseason workouts, but these three in particular, they made an impression. They did what one is supposed to do during the offseason. They did something that last year's crop of undrafteds or guys who were vying for starting positions or rookies coming in trying to make an impact right away, they were not able to leave impressions on the coaching staff. It was basically just, we'll meet you with you on Zoom. We'll get you out there as soon as we can, and then we'll figure things out on the fly. That is no way to go through your first NFL season. So when he brings up specifically Tier Tart and Christian Fulton, that really strikes me, right? Because we're gonna learn, I think, a lot about last year's rookie class, what remains of it, right? Obviously, no Isaiah Wilson, no Cole McDonald. You've got a handful of players who, either because of injury and their bodies struggling to adapt to the speed and physicality of the league and the practice schedule, the rigors that go into being an NFL player. We saw more of Christian Fulton than anybody else. We saw a little bit of Chris Jackson. Laurel Murchison didn't do anything to pop off the screen, and Darrington Evans struggled with injury throughout the course of the year. We really don't know much about these guys at all. So when he brings up Tier Tart, an undrafted rookie free agent last year, and Christian Fulton, who is heading into his second year as a Titans second-round draft pick, these guys are vying for opportunity right now. Opportunity is not just the offseason. Opportunity is the idea that the first-round pick in 2021 is not able to get out on the field right away. So, Christian Fulton, if you would like to show us that you belong as a solution for the future of this football team, now would be your chance to break in, because we've brought in 3 new corners around you, and if Kevin Johnson hadn't retired, it would have been 4. We've hit the secondary with the nuclear option. You and Kevin Byard are basically all that remain, and Amani Hooker in a larger role. This is something that he is going to have the opportunity to prove and find ways to make their decision-making harder at the end of the year. Having brought in Elijah Molden, having brought in Caleb Farley, Janoris Jenkins, Jack Rabbit, out here to replace Malcolm Butler. And Tier Tart the same. I am fascinated to see the impact on the Titans' run defense of losing somebody like Daquan Jones. Perpetually underrated, really until his last year here, and then we started all talking about how underrated he was. to where he became properly rated, I feel like. We're talking about Daquan Jones in the same kind of PFF categories as Aaron Donald, which you take whatever you take from PFF with a grain of salt, of course. But this is something that T.R. Tart is going to have the opportunity to prove. T.R. Tart may have been their best rookie last year or their most promising rookie last year. An undrafted free agent interior defensive lineman. He is going to have the opportunity to prove out here, that he deserves a roster spot over somebody like Larrell Murchison, a fifth-round pick, that he deserves a place in this rotation where Jeffrey Simmons and Danico Autry are going to be your starting guys. You know this, but if you need a nose tackle, who do you slot in? Is that something that is that the best use of Jeffrey Simmons' talents if you have somebody else to take advantage of that? This is going to be a more settled training camp than usual, because we're talking about kickers, we're talking about the odd right tackle, and which combination of three corners are the Titans going to end up using. This is not a team that feels like it's been completely overhauled, and yet the defense, they all but put a new engine in it over the course of this offseason because they knew that they clearly had steps to make in this regard. 615-737-1045 is how you jump in. 615-737-1045 if you would like to give your thoughts or opinions on Titans training camp. Titans training camp roster competition as we watch them out here live at St. Thomas Sports Park. Broadcasting live all 3 days. We're going to have a bunch of great guests over the course of the next couple weeks and as long as we're out here for training camp. And that's something that we'll talk about with Jon Robinson as well at 11:15. This defense, this defense is made in his image and Mike Vrabel's image now. There is no disputing it. They got new players. Now the onus is on the coaches to get those players to perform up to the standard that they've previously set. What we're going to get at, what are you smiling about back there? What are you cheesing about?
Made in his image.
What? Is it that's what I think of every time I see, somebody like V-Love. Oh, by the way, a very happy 34th birthday to one He Hate V. Oh, we're not going to do Stephen A. Smith just because I'm not there?
Happy birthday
there
to him. I don't care. Good luck.
Now, Will Bowling turned around and gave me the stank eye because I guess it's his birthday, too. So happy birthday to Will Bowling.
And happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
And, in fact, also a very happy birthday to Titans defensive lineman Jeffrey Simmons. Why not? Let's go for the three-peat.
And happy birthday to him. I don't care. Good luck.
Outstanding. Yeah, so every time I see V-Love tweet out that, the meme of Jon Robinson, his head kind of faded into the background over the Nashville skyline. There's a rainbow in J-Rob We Trust. I see that meme all over the internet every time, he makes a waiver transaction or a waiver acquisition for some 17th defensive back that you've never heard of. So when I say made in his image, that's immediately what comes to mind.
I picture was it Da Vinci or Michelangelo with God and Adam touching fingers? So I'm picturing like Jon Robinson maybe touching fingers with Julio Jones or something.
Yes, you of Italian birth, the Sistine Chapel is Michelangelo. Did you say Michelangelo?
Michelangelo.
Okay, very good. 615-737-1045. We'll come back with more Italian art critiques and Titans training camp analysis. Coming up next, I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
The Vols are back September 2nd.
Crank up Rocky Top. Touchdown, Tennessee.
And so are the fans. Hear all the excitement on your exclusive home for Vols football. 104.5 The Zone.
Well, housing prices here are through the roof, and that means you're probably sitting on a ton of home equity. Maybe it's time to turn that equity into cash you can use now. Hey, it's Dawn Davenport here talking about Loan Pronto. Loan Pronto can refinance your loan at a super low rate, pay the closing costs for you, and get you a bunch of cash out. I mean, like tens of thousands of dollars. Don't just sit on that home's new value. Use it. Use it to pay off your credit cards. Use it to consolidate other debt. Use it to make your home even even more valuable with a new kitchen, maybe a new bathroom. Loan Pronto's all digital platform makes it fast and easy. You can get a big check in 2 weeks. And if you act now, you can even skip your next 2 house payments. Call Loan Pronto now, 615-499-5780, or go to loanpronto.com. Ask about the Loan Pronto zero cost cash out refi, 615-499-5780. Equal housing lender, NMLS 1661781, subject to lender approval, zero cost option not available on all loans.
15th for the Taste of Donaldson Hermitage at Opry Mills, 7 to 9 p.m. Celebrity judges, T-Rack, Nash, 40 food vendors, kids fun zone, beer and wine tastings. Tickets will go fast. Get yours now. DonaldsonHermitageChamber.com.
Well, it's time to declutter and organize with Artisan Custom Closets. They're now offering 18 months same as cash financing through September, so there's no reason why you shouldn't say goodbye to your clutter. Get a free in-home consultation today. Go to ArtisanCustomClosets.com.
Oh, according to research, 82% of people remember radio ads. That means that 82% of you listening right now will remember that this is an ad for ZipRecruiter. If you're hiring, 82% of you will recall that ZipRecruiter makes hiring faster and easier. And 82% of you will note that you can try ZipRecruiter for free today. But you have to go to ZipRecruiter.com/radio, like where this ad plays. 82% of you will keep in mind that ZipRecruiter
No matter whether we are in studio or out at Titans training camp, broadcasting live from St. Thomas Sports Park, courtesy of our friends at Two Rivers Ford. We greatly appreciate them making this possible for us and for you. It is time to do the dumbest thing in sports this week, so load them up. 615-737-1045 is the number. That is how you nominate the dumbest thing in sports this week. We're doing it a little early because Jon Robinson is going to join us in the 11 o'clock hour, and we could put Jon in the middle of that, but I don't know if that's the best use of the general manager's time. Not that I'm opposed to wasting some people's time, but what are you going to do? So, Lucas, with that being said, let's do the dumbest thing in sports this week.
Let's be honest. You've already seen something this week that made you say,
What the is this?
That's bullshit.
What the hell? Give me some more now.
something so mind-numbingly idiotic that you just want to get it off your chest.
Dumber than a second coat of paint.
Some idiot.
You are really dumb. For real.
It's the dumbest thing in sports this week on the Buck Rising Show.
615-737-1045 is how you jump in. 615-737-1045 is the way to nominate the dumbest thing in sports this week. Now, Lucas says he's got a diatribe prepared. I'm interested to see who he comes after. But, of course, we welcome your involvement as well every Wednesday when we do the dumbest thing in sports. All right, Lucas, what you got for me?
So many know by now that Simone Biles withdrew from a team event earlier this week, and now she has withdrawn from an individual event tomorrow, citing mental health, wanting to focus on that. Her status still unknown in Tokyo for next week's individual events. So a lot of people who know nothing about gymnastics have called Simone Biles weak, a quitter, selfish. A lot of the first name, bunch of numbers, Twitter handles all over the place. And listen, I know absolutely nothing about gymnastics. I can't even fathom the focus and the mental sharpness that's necessary to land those skills. If your mind wanders or goes blank while you're spinning 10 feet in the air, yeah, I feel like the potential's there for something really bad to happen. And I don't know who knows that better than literally the greatest gymnast of all time, Simone Biles. So, secondly, it's insane to me how comfortable some people are calling Biles weak and a quitter, considering the sexual abuse she suffered at the hands of Dr. Larry Nassar and under the watch of USA Gymnastics. It's remarkable to me that she's even in Tokyo in the same setting where she was abused as a teenager. I mean, think about the depression that can follow something like that, the PTSD that can come with having to learn just to be comfortable seeing a doctor again. But she's back to represent her country and has the wherewithal to know when it's time to take a step back for her health, for her safety, for the good of her team. She's played through injuries before on a world stage. She's carrying the burden of being a victim of sexual assault in the face of all survivors that suffered the same abuse under the watch of USA Gymnastics. So anyone that thinks to call Simone Biles a quitter, weak, selfish, whatever, just sit down, shut up, and tip your cap to one of the greatest athletes of all time, understanding when it's time to take a step back. And by the way, Simone Biles would kick your ass. That's my dumbest thing in sports this week.
I mean, she's the headliner of Team USA. And there are grown men criticizing a 24-year-old for quitting on the Olympic team because she is under literally the pressure of an entire country to be able to perform at the highest level. And turns out sometimes she shows the slightest bit of humanity when she has otherwise displayed nothing but superhuman attributes. And people freak out because she's quit on her Olympic team and praising her teammates. And her teammates deserve praise for being able to step in and fill in that spot after Biles was no longer available by her own decision. But people, praising the performance of the people that filled in after Simone Biles was no longer able to compete or no longer wanted to compete, and saying, thank God they were able to do this in the face of one of their teammates quitting on them. How dare she? It is so, and listen, we are in the criticism business, okay? I understand that I have moments where I go after Carson Wentz, who's probably a great human being, and just because he was the worst starting quarterback in football last year, I rip him unnecessarily. Sometimes it feels a bit too personal, and I am guilty of this myself. But there just seems to be a different bar that people are sinking to on this, because we always put this on a poll. At Buck Rising is where you can vote on the polls for the dumbest thing in sports this week. We always put this up to the people, and many people are aligned with you, Lucas, in this regard, that the treatment of Simone Biles on the internet has been absolutely horrific. And they've sent me some of these takes. I'm scrolling through them right now from people, and there is a certain type that appears to be comfortable criticizing Simone Biles. And that's fine. That's not, I'm not casting a wide net. I'm just saying that every time I get sent one of these takes, these people tend to have a theme about them, is what I will say.
I think
615-737-1045.
I think it was our guy V-Love, the birthday boy, who retweeted something that said people are literally more pissed at Simone Biles than they ever were at Dr. Larry Nassar.
Yeah. I mean, it is so true. It is so true. That's when, by the way, we had Joshua Black, whose comedy special I'll be going to tonight at Zany's. He was in studio with us on what was that, Monday? And he's talking about, he's putting on an all-female comedy dais for this show tonight because, men love women, but they don't know how to respect them. And my pushback has always been, based on the behavior of men in sports towards women in sports, I don't necessarily know that I feel that way about a lot of these people so comfortably publicly criticizing. I mean, it is. Am I going too far to call Simone Biles an American hero from a standpoint of performance on an international stage? Like, am I blowing that out of proportion by being the best in the world at her craft, by achieving at the highest levels in previous Olympic Games, and being heralded as, the face of Team USA? It's not Kevin Durant. Kevin Durant is up there in superstardom, but it's not Kevin Durant that you're looking to. It's two strong female athletes, Katie Ledecky and Simone Biles. So I 100% agree with you that this is a crap opinion.
Kevin Durant walking off the court because he's pissed that he didn't get a shot on a particular play, that's one thing. Simone Biles, literally a sexual assault survivor who was assaulted in the setting that she is competing in and is back competing in that setting, representing all the other survivors that went through the same stuff by a guy who is spending his life in prison. She's a hero to all those girls, all those gymnasts, any gymnasts that look up to her, and I think that qualifies her as an American hero as well.
Well, thank you. 615-737-1045 is how you nominate the dumbest thing in sports this week. Let me do this one, and then we will have people file in, and we'll take some of your responses on social media before the Titans general manager joins us at 11:15. Titans practice ongoing right now. We are broadcasting live from St. Thomas Sports Park. So the topic of vaccinations has come up quite a bit among the NFL. The protocols have been sent. Many memos have been sent to these organizations. In fact, Jon Robinson took 5 minutes before practice today to field questions from us and to walk us through some of the new protocols. Like, for example, players who are unvaccinated will be masked during the stretch. And then we look out there, and the starting quarterback of the Tennessee Titans is wearing a mask. That is newsworthy. That is noteworthy. Now, he also said that they have eclipsed the 90% vaccination rate for the Tennessee Titans and that they wanted to be a leader in this particular regard. This is happening in every NFL market all across the country, and coaches are dealing with it. And coaches and executives are dealing with it in various ways. Then there's Ron Rivera, who the Associated Press put out, and Pro Football Talk did some reporting of their own on this. Last week, basically, there were two teams. The two teams that had the lowest vaccination rate in the league were the Indianapolis Colts and the Washington Football Team. Ron Rivera has been out there publicly several times, bringing in medical specialists to educate his team. We've made Montez Sweat has made an appearance on the dumbest thing in sports this week for not knowing what a vaccine is. It's among one of the most. And listen, I don't know what kind of education Montez Sweat has had, but the idea that he would be publicly comfortable getting up there and saying, "Yeah, I wouldn't get the vaccine because I haven't had COVID yet. Why would I treat something that I haven't gotten sick yet with?" No, you idiot. That's not what a vaccine is. Anyway, I digress. So Ron Rivera is fighting uphill, clearly, with people like Montez Sweat. So he has a press conference yesterday, just like Mike Vrabel's. And Ron Rivera says he's, quote, beyond frustrated that so many Washington players are unvaccinated. The coach is immune deficient following cancer treatment last year. So he's frustrated because his unvaccinated players are putting him at risk fresh off of cancer treatment. TJ Ward, who I don't know how many people remember from his time with the Denver Broncos. I'm pretty sure he was on those Super Bowl teams, those nasty defenses with Von Miller when the broken corpse of Peyton Manning was still trudging across the finish line with 9 touchdowns and 17 interceptions. Benched for Brock Osweiler. TJ Ward has been a safety in the NFL for quite some time. He responds to one of these quotes from Ron Rivera saying, just park the riverboat. His health is beyond that of COVID. Maybe it's time to let go. The coach that just got through battling cancer is in remission, remains immune deficient, and at risk to contract COVID-19 despite vaccinations. TJ Ward is saying, hey, you know what, bud? Maybe it's just time. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe this is fate. You have an NFL player publicly saying, hey, maybe life just isn't all that great, Ron. that you're gonna be frustrated by vaccines or lack of vaccinations among players because you yourself have just cleared cancer and now you're back at risk. TJ Ward saying, don't blame the players for your lifelong health decisions. Just clearly show, I'm not going to call him an idiot, but I'm going to say he is displaying the behavior of someone who is an idiot. That seems like the nicer way to put that. TJ Ward, log the hell off one time. I know for myself, sometimes you just can't press send. When you're telling Riverboat Ron that it's just time to let go and let God because he wants his players to be vaccinated, don't press send.
You're so stupid.
Yeah, you're pretty dumb. We want to hear from you, though. Coming up next, your dumbest thing in sports this week. 615-737-1045, live at St. Thomas Sports Park for Titans training camp, day 1. I'm Buck Rising. This is 1045 The Zone.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Coming up tomorrow morning.
Miss any of today's show? Download the podcast, rate, review, and subscribe.
We know you're busy, fam. We got you.
You can also interact with us anytime on Twitter at JMart and Ramon.
We are petty on Twitter anytime and all the time.
Like cheese and bacon, we make your day better. We're JMart and Ramon.
JMart and Ramon, tomorrow morning from 6 to 10 a.m. on 1045 The Zone.
live from St. Thomas Sports Park, Tennessee Titans training camp, day one. A glorious day. Football back in our lives. We're going to get your calls in on the dumbest thing in sports this week before Titans general manager Jon Robinson joins us momentarily. A lot of good questions to ask the GM. But in the meantime, 615-737-1045 is how you jump in on the conversation. 615-737-1045. We are also later in this hour going to hear from maybe a little bit of Mike Frable because we'll have John on while Mike is talking. But Ryan Tannehill, Titans quarterback, is scheduled to take the podium today as well. Great Titans training camp coverage provided to you as always by our friends at Two Rivers Ford, who have made sure that this is all possible for us and for you. So many thanks to the fine folks at Two Rivers Ford. TwoRiversFord.com is where you check them out. So you've called in with your dumbest thing in sports this week. Let's start with Bam, who is up first, wants to weigh in on the dumbest thing in sports this week. What's up, Bam?
What's up? How you feeling, bro? You all right?
Man, I'm doing okay. I'm not sweating too bad. The boys got a fan out here for me. I'm in a tent. I'm being very well taken care of.
So right now, you definitely living the life.
It could be worse.
It could. My dumbest thing is the disrespect that the Titans are getting. Somebody wrote an article saying they're the most second overrated team. I'm like, man, come on, man. Like, what are these dudes going to have to do? Are they going to have to become the Avengers or, the Fantastic Four or something like that? You know what I'm saying? Like, it's the disrespect of some of the greatest athletes in the game, I mean, I just don't know why everybody has this thing of some people of, they're a super team and, they look good on paper. And, everybody got their opinion. But, man, respect the team. At least let them come out and, instead of just saying they're overrated. I don't know, man. It just feels like they're going to have to put up 50 points a game for people to halfway give them respect.
No, I appreciate the call, Bam. 615-737-1045. So the article that he's referencing where the 33rd team, it's Mike Tannenbaum's website, does a lot of scouting and front office analysis. I get their newsletter, I think, every day. And so I read the article he's talking about. The Titans and the Saints as the two most overrated teams heading into training camp. And, I understand why that bothers Titans fans. I would also say to you that it means absolutely nothing right now. We are doing nothing but talking. We are just to the point today. Today is the first time where we have actual football on a football field to discuss, to sink our teeth into. And we will not know whether this team is overrated, properly rated, or even underrated until probably a month into the season. So there's no reason to sweat out these articles of overrated and underrated and top 10 or not top 10 and on and on and on it goes until we get back to football season. It's just meant to do exactly what Bam has brought, which is start conversation and also drive website clicks. 615-737-1045 is how you weigh in on the dumbest thing in sports this week. We also have accepted submissions, as is our custom, on Twitter. Lucas, what are the people saying at Buck Rising right now?
Well, but before that, I might say Zach Ertz's newest hairstyle might be the dumbest thing in sports this week. Just sent it to you.
I'm going to have to – you texted it to me?
Yes.
Oh, my God.
It's
What
awesome.
is that?
It's awesome.
Did he get a perm?
It's like his bleach blonde perm. It's great.
Oh, good Lord.
He looks like a different person.
Oh, he looks like a character out of American History X. He's got to be careful. That's a tough one.
But on Twitter, overall, people are largely agreeing with us. John Miller says the anger and vitriol Simone Biles has received by people who don't possess 1/10 of the talent and dedication she possesses. Football and other F words. Our friends over there say TJ Ward 100%.
TJ Ward, I still can't get over how dumb it is to tell somebody, yeah, maybe, Ron, it's okay. Just die. That's fine. Just die.
Goody says people tearing down Simone Biles for trying to take care of her mental health. Gymnastics is a dangerous sport when you're fully healthy and in good mental health. I'm telling you, I'm not seeing a single – okay, here's one that's not Simone Biles or TJ Ward related because those have kind of taken over. Steven Seagal, his profile picture is literally a seagull with Steven Seagal's face on it.
Well
says,
done.
Montreal Canadiens picking a guy in the first round who got arrested for secretly taking / sending pictures of getting a word that I can't say on the radio. I mean, he released a statement a day before the draft saying he didn't want to be drafted, and Montreal didn't have an answer as to why they drafted him.
Well, the YouTube chat is decidedly less pro Simone Biles. The YouTube chat has lit up with, failure and quitter and all of these things. in a way that it seems to be a little more nuanced on Twitter.
Okay, I should
Twitter.
stay away from the YouTube chat then.
The YouTube chat says Carrie Benford says it's selfish what Simone Biles has done.
Oh, it's selfish.
It's selfish to focus on mental health. Indeed.
I don't
In an Olympics, go ahead.
People understand that she's spinning 10 feet in the air. Like, what happens when your mind wanders, when you're 10 feet in the air and you're upside down doing whatever skill you're doing that has made her the greatest gymnast on the planet?
In a sport that is already such a high risk of injury, it is. I mean, gymnastics. What is more dangerous than gymnastics? Unless you're like Emmanuel Acho and you think people are smoking pot and throwing the javelin.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I think people get a pass in certain situations. I think a sexual abuse survivor who was abused by her own team doctor, back representing her team and the rest of the survivors, knowing because she's the greatest gymnast of all time, when it's time to take a step back because she understands what will happen. Yeah, I think she gets a pass. Like, why would Simone Biles just say, "No, I'm good. I don't feel like competing"? Like, is that what people think is going through her head? Like, no, I'm a little stressed. I don't want to be out there.
I've made it. What do I need to do this? I mean, it's just the whole thing pisses me off because it's a fraudulent Olympics in a country that was not able to cancel it because of television contracts, because we're all just grasping at the dollars right now when there are no fans in the stands and NBC has paid God knows how many billions of dollars for the exclusive right to the Olympics. It's completely out of control. What's not going to be out of control, we think, is Titans General Manager Jon Robinson. He's getting ready to join the show. Coming up next, live from St. Thomas Sports Park, Titans training camp, day one. Stick around. The GM joins us. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
Coming up tomorrow morning.
Miss any of today's show? Download the podcast, rate, review, and subscribe.
We know you're busy, fam. We got you.
You can also interact with us anytime on Twitter at JMart and Ramon.
We are petty on Twitter anytime and all the time.
Like cheese and bacon, we make your day better. We're JMart and Ramon.
JMart and Ramon. Tomorrow morning from 6 to 10 a.m. on 104.5 The Zone.
Score a major payday with BetMGM. Hey guys, it's Lucas Panzica, and it's the best time to sign up for the king of sportsbooks because they're giving new customers a shot at an easy $100. Register using code LUCAS100 and win $100 in free bets when you place a $1 moneyline wager on the Yankees or the Rays, and if either team hits a home run, you win. Whether you're raising the stakes on summer baseball or wagering on your favorite soccer team like Nashville Soccer Club, BetMGM is always ready for action. Enjoy innovative parlay selection builders, daily promotions, boosted odds specials, and more. Download the app or go to BetMGM.com and use code LUCAS100 to
This video went viral last offseason. Jon Robinson singing "Ain't No Sunshine When She's Gone," chilling in an armchair, having done the work for the offseason, getting ready for the 2020 season. Man, it was okay. He's just good enough to be a bad singer, I think. We'll see if we can critique his singing expertise when he joins us momentarily. They've just broken, or they're still huddled up on the practice field. By the way, we're live out here for the next 3 days and I think the foreseeable future at training camp while we have these practices to be able to hang out. So the practice is getting ready to conclude. The players are starting to peel off now. Now, an update to note, several updates to note. Taylor Lewan did leave practice early but returned later on. I'm not sure how much he was able to do. That much I could not see from where we're sitting here at the tent, but I did see him walk off with the trainer and then walk back out. Now, John Glennon has a more detailed practice report, given that Johnny was roaming the field while we've been over here doing the radio show. Derrick Henry worked a lot in the sand pit. Julio Jones limited, didn't work all of the drills. And then, of course, Ryan Tannehill, Christian Fulton, the two players that we have seen wearing masks, which would indicate that they are not vaccinated or wearing masks during stretch, which would indicate that they are not vaccinated. Now, this was something that John took time out of practice to make a stance on, that the Tennessee Titans are looking to be leaders in their community in regards to vaccination. 90%. The roster has come quite a long way since they broke for mandatory minicamp, and whether the NFL's nuclear option to potentially cost players money, make the franchises that would have to forfeit games due to unvaccinated COVID outbreaks, whether that was the impetus, the spur that kind of moved things along a little quicker for across the league, except maybe in Indianapolis and Washington, where they're still reporting as the lowest vaccinated teams in the NFL right now. But this is something that is going to continue to be a theme, right? The Titans already put a player on the COVID reserve list today. Now, he is Chris Jones, not the defensive lineman out of Kansas City, but a defensive back for the Titans. It's something that I think, until it really starts to hit home again, I think people are going to continue to regard this as a normal season. And honestly, Rep Bryan is out here sitting with me for Titans Radio. He's been doing a great job. He'll provide excellent content for Mike Keith and Coach Mack and the Titans Radio broadcast that they're getting ready to gear up for. But to sit out here with Rhett and to see all our media friends and to see things, almost back to normal, there's just such a comfort in this that I hope that I can accurately describe to the audience, because it just means that we're going to be able to enjoy our sporting events, hopefully, in full force again. But I have a handful of questions for Jon Robinson when he walks over and joins us here momentarily. Mike Frable getting ready to take the podium. John Simon, new Titans linebacker, currently speaking to the assembled media vultures right now from a distance of 10 feet. I didn't. Rhett is so much smarter than I am. He thought to brought, basically a microphone extension to get the audio quality that we're going to be requiring, so we don't all take, terrible Bigfoot videos from across the side of the fence. But John Simon, new Titans linebacker, speaking to the assembled media right now. But I've got some questions about this defense for John, not Simon, Robinson, about why it was so important to be able to pull the trigger on not a whole new roster on that side of the ball, but do as much as humanly possible to be able to retool and fortify. Why it was so important to get new players in this regard. Why it was so important to allow the coaching staff to have another opportunity at this, but say, okay, we've provided you with these new pieces. We're going to make sure that there are no excuses as to why our defense can't operate at a higher level this year. Now, you have a bunch of players in contract years as well. Jon Robinson strolling over to the table, fresh off Titans practice. Doesn't look as sweaty as I was expecting. John, what's going on? We're gonna set you up right here. Wherever within the distance, we got to make sure. Would you rather stand in the shade? Whatever makes it easier for you. Rhett, can we flip his microphone on just to make sure? Okay, well, I'm not able to hear him, Lucas. But anyway, I can do this with my headphones off. John, we appreciate you spending some time. How we living? So, John, apparently I'm being told that we can't hear him read if we could do something about this. I'm sorry for the inconvenience here. We'll make sure that we can get the Titans general manager. See if we can't get Jon Robinson back on air with us here in just a second as we broadcast live from Titans training camp. Well, you know what? The hell with this, John. Why don't I just come out? Can I interview you from a distance? All right. So, John, first day of training camp practice, what's it been like? How did you like the energy from your team?
Good intensity from the guys. Guys came out ready to go. Obviously, some things we got to get cleaned up here, but guys were excited to get back out here and get started.
So when you're going into your pre-camp process, I guess kind of walk the audience through what exactly that looks like from your guys, from your staff, from you personally, when you're getting ready to put these guys together and start evaluating the roster.
Yeah, I mean, I think, since we've been here, we've talked about putting the most competitive 90-man roster together as possible, and then letting these guys duke it out, letting them come out here. They know the standard that we want to practice at. They know the level of intensity that we want to have at practice. You got to take care of each other. It's a long season. It's a long camp. But that's one of the things that we're looking to do is try to get as competitive a position group at every position as possible heading into camp.
So among the position groups that you're going to have competition at, I mean, you good?
Low back just got a little tight, Buck. We're good. A little snug.
This camp injuries have already begun.
No, I'm not on IR. No pup.
No IR. So with the competition in the secondary, you guys added a bunch of new defensive backs. Caleb Farley not yet available to you guys. Elijah Molden, Jack Rabbit. This is a much different looking group, and on defense, a much different looking group. But specifically in the secondary, what kind of steps are you looking to see from somebody like Christian Fulton, who had a weird offseason last year, as all rookies did, but having an opportunity to take advantage of this offseason, so much so that he got praise from the head coach yesterday?
Yeah, I mean, Christian really had an outstanding offseason. You could see it during the OTA practices. You could see it in the mini camp. He's tighter in man coverage. He just has a better feel for the defense. His body feels more acclimated and ready to go for the pro game. And, the big thing for that entire secondary and the defense in general is the communication piece. There's a lot of moving parts when it comes to lining up against different offensive sets and motions, but making sure we communicate, we're all on the same call. It may be the wrong call, but you all want to be on the same call so you're all executing the same plan.
How much of an emphasis was that communication throughout the course of the offseason? Because third down defense is something that's continually cited coming off of last year. You hope that statistics don't translate from year to year, that the work that you guys have done to rebuild this thing will help in that effort. But what was this offseason like in regards to that third down? Yeah,
I think you touched on this, the communication piece, making sure that, whether we check something, we call something, this motion, it turns into this, then they motion back and it kicks back to the original call. Just making sure that we're communicating, that we're echoing those calls so that we're all on the same page and that we're all executing the same plan of attack. And, when you got a bunch of different pieces coming in from either different NFL teams or the draft, you've got to get up to speed pretty quickly. And I'm proud of where our guys ended minicamp and excited to see how we started today.
Titans general manager Jon Robinson here with us on 104.5 The Zone. John, if your back's bothering you, you're welcome to sit down.
No, you're good. I'm great. I need to stand up.
Got to get your steps in today. With the situation regarding vaccination, you felt it necessary to open up training camp, making a statement with us. People can find that on social media, of course. You get walking through media, the new policies that have put into place, and this basically being not a last-minute situation, but the league learning as it goes to try and make sure that everybody's kept safe and well. Why is it so important to you to be a leader on the front of vaccinations? Because that's something that's been polarizing, no matter what sect of society that you are in.
Yeah, I mean, listen, it's obviously it's at the forefront of discussion in our country right now. With the vaccination rates, the different variants that are coming out of this virus. We're still in some degree of a pandemic. The ebbs and flows of the charts on a daily basis with the number of cases, the number of hospitalizations. And I wanted it, to be known that, we want to be leaders in our community and our state. We've educated our players. We continue to educate our players. At the end of the day, it's a personal decision, and we respect that. The protocols are put in place to protect the players, to protect the team, the teammates, our families, everything. That's why the protocols are in place. It's not for punishment. It's really more for protection. So to be at 90% vaccinated, I thought that was important to share with the community, with those that follow our football team, our fans, so that they know we have been pushing to educate our players so that they have the information to make the best decision for themselves and their families.
And it's all about personal choice, as you stated as well. Now, something that is a part of the protocol is unvaccinated players during stretch wear masks. We saw Ryan Tannehill wearing a mask today. I'm sure there were conversations had about that. A leader of your football team, and certainly something that you guys have said that you wanted to be on the forefront of. What have you had a conversation, I guess, with Ryan about lack of vaccination and what implications that might have?
Well, there are different stages. I kind of touched on that. Really, 4 different categories are where a player's at. You've got, players that are fully vaccinated that don't have masks on. You have players that, they're just waiting for that final, day 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, whatever that may be, to be fully vaccinated. You've got some players that are in between vaccinations if they've taken the one of the 2 shots that are available. Then you've got some guys that have chosen not to get vaccinated or not to get vaccinated yet. So we're just following the protocols that the league's put in place and respecting everybody's decision and being mindful of the protection pieces that we need to do, that the league says that we have to do in order that we can get this season played.
No question about it. We all hope that this is as close to normal as humanly possible coming off of last year. So you guys don't do injury updates. You don't do injury timelines. That is something that we all understand and respect. But Caleb Farley and Bud Dupree are fascinations, of course, by the fan base. First-round pick and your guys' top free agent acquisition this offseason. What information can you share with the audience about where these 2 guys are?
Yeah, those guys have worked extremely hard in the offseason, and they were part of the early group that came back a couple days early before the vets and got some work in on the field. It's part of their return to play protocol, if you will. Different players are at different stages depending upon where they're at health-wise. We're being mindful of that. Our doctors and our trainers update Coach Frable and I daily on that. But those guys are progressing. I know they're working hard. I know they're itching to get back out here. But being mindful of their bodies, and it's a long season. It's
Sure.
it's a 6-month season, and we want to get off to a good start and make sure that they're in a good position so that they're playing productive reps for us there in December and hopefully January.
Does that additional regular season game that has been added this year, does that make your job any different as far as roster evaluation? Does it change substantially anything that you and your staff do?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I think it's it's a 20-game season, whether it's 4 preseasons and 16 regulars, or 3 preseasons and 17 regulars. It's another chance for our players to go out and compete. It's another home game for us this year, which we're excited about in the regular season. So, that's what the league agreed to with the ownership group and the PA, and we're excited to take the field and play the game.
Titans General Manager Jon Robinson, kind enough to give us some of his time here on 104.5 The Zone. John, I really appreciate you stopping by, and happy to be back out here at camp.
Absolutely. Great seeing you, Buck.
No doubt. The GM, kind enough to hang with us here on 104.5 The Zone. Hopefully he can get that back taken care of on day 1 of training camp. He's going to make it. 615-737-1045 is how you react to anything that you just heard from Jon Robinson. A couple of interesting conversation points there. With this vaccination policy and with the protocols that the league has put in place, with the way that the NFL is trying to make sure that they can respect personal choice while also, more importantly than anything, protecting their bottom line. That's what this is about. The NFL has always prioritized, as a league, as an entity. I'm not talking about the Titans as an organization. I'm not talking about the Colts or any other team specifically, but the governing body of the NFL that runs this thing, the idea that they would be prioritizing health and human safety at this point almost rings a little hollow to me. This is something that is in line with the popular opinion. Football is in line with science in this regard, having to do with vaccinations. But I do understand, because we had this conversation is going to start about Ryan Tannehill, the situation where you see Christian Fulton and Tannehill wearing masks today, as Robinson walked us through it. It does not necessarily mean that they're not vaccinated. They could be in any different stages of vaccination based on the time period that they have. Something important to note when you see those tweets coming out, because those tweets will come out over the course of today, and people already, chirping back at me about the idea that why is this newsworthy that Ryan Tannehill and Christian Fulton are wearing a mask? Why? And, why do we care? Well, I do think it's important to note because you would care. You would care to know if something were to happen, like last year, for example, an outbreak occurs. It's still possible in this year. Fortunately, we are seeing people test positive coming into training camps across the league, and like Frank Reich, the head coach of the Colts, being double vaccinated and still testing positive, but asymptomatic. That, to me, signifies that the vaccination process is at least having some effect. But you are going to want to know. You are going to want to identify these players should something happen in the middle of the season, like last October, where, the Tennessee Titans go through the first COVID outbreak in all of football. And it becomes a national talking point, so much so that they end up on CNN and NBC Nightly News, and people are talking about the Tennessee Titans, outlets that would never come close to covering the local professional football team here in Nashville. It's going to continue to happen. It's going to continue to be a talking point and something that spans over the course of the season. But I do think it's critical that Jon Robinson has made it known that the organization wants to do their part to encourage people to get vaccinated. Because Mike Frable has done that. He has said in not so many words, as Lucas pointed out yesterday when we're going through this about Vrabel's opening press conference, the diplomacy that he approached it with, right? This was not Bruce Arians sauntering up to the podium and saying, well, I don't know why you wouldn't get the vaccine, not accounting for certain situations and certain reservations that people are naturally going to have. You can't just cast these things. This is where I think the conversation gets so skewed. I think that this ultimately gets so polarized that people aren't willing to, understand that you do not have to operate in extremes. And that's what the Titans are trying to avoid doing. They're trying to make sure that they educate their team. They're trying to make sure that they educate their staff. They're trying to make sure that they put people in as safe a position as humanly possible. That includes us. We out here at training camp are being socially distanced for a purpose because they have an obligation as long as we're out here. Not that anybody would, cry if I perished from COVID or something like that. But why don't we go to Ryan Tannehill, who's at the podium right now, because I'm sure this is a question that is going to be addressed.
We have some familiar faces around here and added some new pieces. So excited about that. But we have a lot of work to do, and nothing's going to happen before we put the work in.
Ryan, what Jon Robinson told us before practice today, that it was 90% vaccination rate for the team. Your thoughts on that number, and then noticed you were wearing a mask and Stretch also. Have you made a decision, one way or another on the vaccine yourself?
Yeah, it's a high number. You look around and almost everybody's either been vaccinated or in process. I'm currently in process right now, so that's where it's at. But yeah, I think the NFL has kind of made it clear what they want to happen, and if you don't fall in line, they're kind of try to make your life kind of miserable with all the protocols. So I think you're seeing the trend is that most guys are getting vaccinated.
You're in the process?
Okay. How good to have AJ back, and how did you think he looked first time out since last year?
It's great to have AJ back out here. I love throwing the ball to AJ. Love being on the same side of the game as him. He's a great dude and a great football player. So excited to have him back. Obviously, he's out here working, doing some new things, and excited about that. So he made a couple plays today, and it looks good doing it. So that's all good.
How do you feel about the competition after AJ, Julio, and Josh? The guys like Chester Rodgers, Marcus Johnson, Des Fitzpatrick, Mason Matt. What do you see in those guys so far, and what do you like?
They're competing. It's a stacked receiver room. There's no doubt about it. It's going to be a big competition throughout this training camp is to see who comes out of there. I think that's a nod to Jon Robinson and Vrabel for being able to put that room together and that competition together in that room. Obviously, big, strong, tough, physical group. So excited to have that competition in that room, and those guys will be able to help us throughout the year.
Every team goes through change and has new players and coaches come along, but it seems like you guys maybe have a lot more than some other teams around the league. How important is it with some of these new faces, with Todd and some of the others, you all get on the same page and it's not just sort of a collection of talent, but you're all able to work together?
Well, it's crucial. That's one of our keys to this training camp is to build a team. We have a bunch of guys right now. It's not the same team as last year. It's a new team. So we have to actually come together as a team improve each and every day and compete. So getting that familiarity with coaching staff, with teammates who haven't been here before, getting everyone accustomed and up to speed to the way we do things, and then holding that standard throughout training camp and throughout the season is going to be crucial. So excited for that process. Daily intentionality, communication, focus on the details, being able to work through the ins and outs of the game, the details of the game, and then being able to communicate it clearly to everyone involved.
Your perspective as the distributor, how do you go about making sure that all these mouths are fed? You got AJ, Julio, Derek, etc.
I think just going through my process, right? Stick to the way I do things and preparing, trying to find good matchups on the field and not trying to force the ball to anybody on a particular play. The targets will come, with the play calls, and we're going to find the right matchups and find the right coverages. You can't just force them to individual, and that's a good thing when you have guys all across the field who can get open and catch the ball. Is eventually someone's going to find a good matchup out there and be in a good position depending on what the coverage is. So excited to have those guys out there, and as we continue to work, get on the same page, things should get better for us.
What is the key to getting on the same page with Julio Jones? He's a guy that has always gotten a lot of targets.
Yeah, I think communication is key, right? When we install and I'm talking through what I expect on certain routes, we're in walkthroughs, walking through things. He's telling me what he's seeing, I'm telling him what I'm seeing, and then obviously, getting on the practice field and getting the balls up in the air to him. That's going to be crucial.
How's it going with Todd? The transition to Todd, how is he different from Arthur? How do you think this will look different on the field?
Yeah, I don't want to compare the two guys. They're both themselves, and that's all we want them to be is to be individuals, be themselves, and do the best job they can do. So excited to have Todd on board. I've enjoyed talking with him over the past couple of years as a tight end coach, and then now as a coordinator. I enjoyed our process of getting to know each other in this new role, and the way he thinks about our offense and our concepts and creating matchups we like. Really excited about him in that spot. So a lot of work to do, but looking forward to it.
I know you're not combing the internet reading this stuff. It's a popular thing for people to analyze you and say, reliant on Henry, reliant on the system. It seems to me that's a good thing, that you're successful in a good system. Is it funny to you the lengths that people will go to find stuff like that, to diminish you?
That's their prerogative. Everyone's entitled to their own opinion. I'm going to go out and do the best I can each and every day to get better and lead this team to wins. So at the end of the day, if I'm leading this team to wins, that's all that really matters.
Lines, some people apparently will never be convinced that you're not injury prone. Did you have to convince yourself after those last couple of years in Miami, or you feel like that was just some bad luck?
Yeah, it was just a couple unfortunate situations, It was really out of my hands. Look at my career before that. I was able to play almost 5 straight years without missing a game. And then kind of had a little bit of a bad run there with major injuries. So it's kind of how the cookie crumbles sometimes, the way the ball falls. Sometimes it goes in your favor, sometimes it doesn't. And there for a little bit, it didn't fall in my favor. And glad we're past that.
Did it change the way you play at all?
No, I don't think so. I mean, I still try to go out and compete and play tough, be smart when I'm running, try to, not take any dumb hits, get down if I'm in the open field. But, it's a critical situation, and the first down is on the line, the game's on the line, and I'm 2 yards from the first down, I have a collision coming. Yeah, I'm going to try to take on the defender and find a way to get the first down and keep the chains moving. So just finding that balance of being smart and taking care of yourself, making sure you're not taking unnecessary hits, and also competing and finding a way to win.
What's the process like for you? You got a couple of new veterans in Josh and Julio, obviously, but also a couple of rookies in Dez and Racy, trying to get both those guys up to speed, maybe knowing they're going to be at different, maybe learning curves.
Yeah, no doubt. Everyone's different, right? Everyone that comes in, whether, Julio's, I think, in year 11 or you got a rookie coming in, everyone learns a little bit different experiences and at different speeds. So just being able to communicate, talk through the installs, each route individually, what I'm expecting. We get to the walkthroughs. Those are crucial for us. Kind of take the physical taxing off and be able to really just communicate the nuances of the route with the different leverages and the different coverages. And then, take advantage of every rep. We get the rep, we're going to make it count, and then learn from it on tape. And I think making sure that as we watch the tape and communicate what happened and how we either agree with what happened or want to make a change with what happened, that everyone in the room can learn from that and not make that same mistake again.
Garrett said during the offseason that Ravens loss still haunts him. Going back to kind of your performance in that game, is that something that's motivating the whole team? Is how last season, after what was a good season, 11-win season, division championship, how it ended?
Yeah, it's definitely a sour taste, you know. I think, I can say that no one in that locker room felt great after that. You know, it was a rough inning for us after, a promising year. Being able to win the division was good, but that's not where we compete in this game. Is not to win the division. That's a step, but ultimately is to win a championship. So, sour taste in the mouth. You know, tough ending for us, and I think it motivates a lot of the guys that are in this locker room. But at the same time, it's a new team, a lot of new faces that weren't here for that, and have to find a way to come together with all the new faces and new coaches and find a way to compete for a championship this year.
The NFL restrictions over vaccinations, making guys miserable. Do you think that's influencing guys' decisions to go ahead and do it? Did it influence yours?
Oh, no doubt. I wouldn't have gotten the vaccine if without the protocols that they're enforcing on us. I think it's a personal decision for everyone. Everyone has to make the best decision for them and their families. That's kind of our mindset in this building. But they're trying to force your hand, and they ultimately have forced a lot of hands by the protocols, which is, everyone has their own opinions on. So it is what it is. I love this game. I love this team. I want to be able to compete and do the things that, I think are important to build chemistry and win football games. So ultimately that forced my hand into getting the vaccine.
Ryan, other than the protocols, any conversations in the midst of making that decision that helped ease your mind, medical professionals, people that were brought into the team, what were the conversations like as you went through that process?
Yeah, there were a ton of conversations. The team brought people in to talk to us, doctors to talk to us. There was a lot of conversations in the spring. I think our numbers were obviously lower in the spring with who was vaccinated. Had a ton of conversations in the spring, strong opinions about it as there are everywhere. And ultimately, I think, like you said, almost 90% or close to 90% of the guys are either vaccinated or in process. So you kind of see what the trend is. And like I said, our hand was kind of forced if you didn't want to, abide by all the hefty protocols.
I guess was your mind put at ease?
Up next, I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
The Vols are headed back for another exciting SEC season.
Touchdown, Tennessee!
September 2nd, and new coach Josh Heupel and new athletic director Danny White look to right the ship. Follow along on your exclusive home for Vols football. 104.5 The Zone.
My friends at the Ashton Real Estate Group of RE/MAX Advantage. People come up to my friend Gary Ashton all the time and say, don't sell without the intel.
one-on-ones on a day like today before you build up to Monday, I presume, in bats where they can really be physical? What are you looking for them to work on?
Well, that was something that we came up with a couple years ago just to try to take, some of the helmet contacts off these guys, and when we do the studies and, when the league asks, me to be involved in some of that stuff, I'm all for it. And those are where the numbers are getting real high. It's the O-line, D-line. And so, just trying to take some of the helmet contacts away from it, work with the players, explain what we're trying to do. It's about hand placement. It's about pad level. It's about continuing to move their feet, playing square. We're doing the best that we can, and it's never going to be perfect, but there's things that Keith's looking for from an offensive line perspective, and there's some things that Big T is looking for from a defensive perspective. So hopefully we can continue to coach it and do it and take advantage of those days where we're not just, lining up every single day and going at it.
Building off of that, Tier Tart, he seemed to be pretty impressive during those periods. What are some of the things that you like about him, like maybe his footwork or anything
I think the biggest thing for Tier is that after the season ended, he met with, he visited with T and he visited with Frank and myself about a routine. This was a player that wasn't at a school, with the type of pedigree as maybe some of these bigger schools, and Tier, like a lot of kids that are 19 and 20, they take a little bit to figure it out. And he was at a couple different schools, and so he built a routine in the off season. And I think that's a good segue into what we said was our off season award winners, and that was Anthony Ferkser, that was Nick Westbrook, that was Laurel Murchison and Tier Tart. So, obviously we had a lot of guys that were working hard. We could just go on and base that by the guys that were here and here, the majority of the time. So to Tier's credit and all those guys, he got into a routine, showed up, continued to work, got stronger, worked on his conditioning, and, hopefully that shows up.
Off-season award winners?
Attaboy, they get to hopefully play, they get better. Now we give them a parking spot out front. We give them whatever perk. Stretch is in charge of the gift basket.
In the 7-on-7, Deshaun looked a little indecisive. How important is it to look at the film to see whether or not that's good defense, the receiver's not getting open, or how much of it is kind of working with him on maybe making quicker decisions?
Yeah, I think that's a lot of it when you look at which group they're going with and whether somebody ran a wrong route or the spacing wasn't correct or the defense actually covered them. And it all comes down to decision making, not throwing the ball late because somebody's covered, not throwing the ball across our body or not just trying, we're trying to find completions, but then obviously making sure that, we're not crazy and we're not reckless with the football down there. So I know that came up, at least once down there. And then we'll get to continue to improve. This is, this being able to get down there in the red zone is good. The windows are tighter. It's going to be like that. Tell the receivers that the catches are going to be contested. So that's a great place to start, on the first day, shorten some of those distances that we're traveling. This is a lot of the stuff that we do is designed to take care of the players, but obviously we know how important the red zone is everywhere.
How much more important the slot has become, I guess, offensively? How important is it that you guys in Molden have a guy that almost seems kind of ready-made to step in there and defend, the better receivers that are playing?
Yeah, Elijah is going to have to continue to improve. They throw a lot of bubbles out there, and he was really good at that, and he played there a lot. It just, we're going to have to keep working him on those routes down the field, that we've talked about in the past that continue to come up and show up, as either the true slot receiver or sometimes they may put guys in there to create some matchups. So, Elijah's off to a good start. Had some PBUs today. Looked like he did a nice job in the open field tackling drill as well. And he's conscientious, he's smart, and he's learning.
Titans head coach Mike Frable at the podium with the media. We will react to what Mike Frable had to say, what Ryan Tannehill had to say as well. We haven't had the chance to do that. And then Will Compton will join us. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
J. Martin Ramon. getting ready to eat some Titans credit pie.
How do you think the credit pie goes over the last 2 years for the Tennessee Titans? How does the pie get divvied up?
J. Mart and Ramon. Jason Martin and Ramon Foster. Tomorrow morning starting at 6 on 104.5 The Zone.
just concluded. Mike Vrabel finished at the podium. John Glennon telling me to keep it down from the peanut gallery. Too bad, Johnny. I'm pretty sure Tehran just gave me the throat slash sign. I don't know if I have to fear for my life or not. We will see. 615-737-1045. It's just I'm happy to see my friends, even if they're not happy to hear me from the Titans media tent. But the festivities have concluded. Mike Vrabel has just wrapped up. Ryan Tannehill as well. Here on 104.5 The Zone. If you want to get involved and react to anything that you heard today, 615-737-1045 is the number. 615-737-1045. So, Lucas, I don't know if we have Ryan Tannehill's answer about his decision to get vaccinated and what, in his own words, forced his hand, but I think we should run that back for the people if we have that available.
Important. Like I said, I wouldn't have gotten the vaccine if not for really intensive protocols and not being able to gather with teammates and separate locker room, separate meeting room, separate cafeteria, all those type of things where you're losing the team chemistry, the team bond, which I think is so important.
So Ryan Tannehill at the podium earlier today talking about his decision to get vaccinated and that the NFL's protocols putting this into place ultimately forced his hand. And he's not alone, by the way. There's plenty of people who feel that way. Hell, among the media members. If we did not get the vaccine, we would not be able to do our jobs this year, in essence. We would not be allowed in the press box for games. We would not be allowed at training camp. These are the rules that you have to work under. And I think, people get so caught up in personal choice, which is, of course, everybody's right. And the Titans have emphasized that. Mike Vrabel has emphasized that. Jon Robinson has emphasized that. But at the end of the day, this is what the new normal is going to look like for in the NFL. We had somebody tweet us earlier. At Buck Rising is where you can interact with the show on Twitter at 104.5 The Zone, at Lucas Panzica, if you want to chirp at him too. We had somebody send us this on Twitter, basically, a job fair in 2021. Hey, do you want to work? Cool. Get vaccinated. That's basically what we are all working through right now. If you do not want to be hindered in your place of employment and your ability to earn money affected, then this is the decision that you are going to make. You are being, hot. It is being strongly suggested. Now, Lucas, we were in commercial break when Mike Vrabel was asked about this, and if we have that audio available for the people, I think you told me that he gave us a great response. So why don't we hear from the Titans head coach who just left the podium moments ago?
The big thing that I told, the entire team last night was, this isn't necessarily about a vaccine. This isn't about masks. This isn't about social distance. This isn't about a fine or cameras. This is about us being responsible to each other to keep people safe, to keep our family safe, to keep our team safe, our teammates. And so at the end of the day, whatever your decision is, we all have to live with it, but we have to make sure that we're not making decisions for ulterior reasons, that we're doing it to keep people safe, and that if I choose to get the vaccine, I still have to be conscious of my safety and what I'm doing. And if I don't, then I really have to. Then I have a responsibility to wear my mask and be socially distant, but function and do your job here at work. So I think that's the most important thing. It's not, following the protocols so that we don't get the fine. It's following the protocols or getting vaccinated to keep each other safe and take care of one another.
That was the head coach at the podium earlier today. It's a responsibility to keep people safe is basically how and what he's just articulated, that's how they're asking people to look at this. Now, he was asked, there were more football conversations and more football questions asked than just that, but obviously this is going to be news. This is going to be something that's aggregated by, every outlet covering the NFL. This is something that's going to be talked about throughout the course of training camp, which among, especially the quarterbacks, given the profile that these guys have, who among them is vaccinated? We asked Jon Robinson about this earlier when he joined the radio show. He is the leader. He is the most front-facing leader of your team, Ryan Tannehill, as the starting quarterback. That's a question that is going to continue to be asked throughout the course of the year. And if something should happen, if God forbid, if something should happen during the course of the regular season, now Tannehill says he is in the process of getting vaccinated. Thus, he was still masked today because he has not cleared the appropriate time frames to be able to go maskless through stretch. He and Christian Fulton were the two that were clear and obvious to everyone. But we are going to get to more normalized football conversations. But as long as this thing continues to hover over all of our day-to-day existence, whether that's training camp, whether that's, if you are somebody who's been working from home and your office is trying to get you back into the building and normalize your work environment, but there's this pesky Delta variant that's hovering over everything and making it impossible for us to bring our employees back into the office safely. It's just a responsibility to help keep people safe, even if Ryan Tannehill is saying, I wouldn't have done it if the NFL hadn't forced my hand. I know people are pushing back on that because of personal freedom. I respect that. But also, them's the breaks, and these are the rules. And this is the way that the NFL is going to operate because the NFL is not going to allow you to cost them additional money after the losses that they took in 2020. I didn't mean to make that rhyme. 615-737-1045 is how you chime in on the conversation. 615-737-1045. So I can't see the Zone TV chat anymore, Lucas. The iPad overheated because it is blazing hot out here at Titans training camp. But they have the boys from the Zone crew have been able to take good care of me today, and we appreciate their efforts. We also appreciate Two Rivers Ford, who makes this broadcast and these training camp broadcasts possible for you and possible for us. TwoRiversFord.com is where you can do your window shopping if you so choose. When we come back, there's a lot of interesting angles to take with I guess he's technically an active NFL player. Will Compton joins us for his weekly segment coming up next, and I'm going to ask him because I don't know whether Will has been vaccinated or not, and he may not be comfortable sharing that. But Will is currently in a position where he is seeking employment in the league. He is somebody who, in one of these situations, if you're on a roster bubble or if you're on the bubble to make a roster or be added to a roster to be signed in the middle of training camp, as we'll see several veterans happen with several veterans. For example, Jesse James, the veteran tight end, signing on with another team yesterday. We will continue to see these signings trickle in, and whether the vaccinations play any role into whether these teams are comfortable adding a dude from the outside who is unvaccinated and unwilling to be vaccinated. We will see what Will Compton's opinions on that and about what Ryan Tannehill just said, because I know for a fact that Ryan Tannehill speaks for a great many players in that locker room. And whether you agree or disagree with the NFL's measures, you have to understand that the reason that the reason that they are being asked to do this is at its core the health and safety of everybody around them. We'll come back and we'll continue the conversation. Will Compton joins us for his weekly installment of Bussin' with Buck. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
A.J. Brown, Bud Dupree, and Caleb Farley. You hear them on the exclusive Titan station.
104.5 The Zone.
Lately,
presented by our friends at Two Rivers Ford, where we will be broadcasting throughout the course of the Titans camp leading up into the preseason and then, mercifully, regular season football on our doorstep. We await the presence of Will Compton of Bussin' with the Boys to see whether he's been glad-handing outside of the facility. We're all in the building, and Will Compton is currently out of the building. So we will see what Will has been doing with his free time and get his opinions on this forced hand vaccination conversation. Now, there's a great many things happening across the NFL right now that Lucas has informed me of. Aaron Rodgers is apparently going scorched earth, unfiltered, at his opening a press conference, so much so that Tom Pelissero is saying that he opened Aaron Rodgers' press conference by asking, what was this all about for you? Talking about the, prospective holdout and trade request. Pelissero says, Rodgers has been talking for 5 minutes and counting, detailing the entire timeline of his issues and talks with the Packers. No way to reduce it to tweets, but we'll have it all on NFL Network. Ian Rappaport is saying Aaron Rodgers unfiltered is something else. Then Lucas told me during the break that Cole Beasley has put out like a video clip explaining his position on all of the controversy that has been swirling around him.
It's at the podium.
Oh, he's at the podium.
Yes,
so
it's
he's
at
in
Bill's
a press
training
conference
camp.
setting.
Correct.
Okay. Got it. So you told me we should play this for the people. We're not going to get into, conspiracy theories with Cole Beasley hour, are we?
No, we'll see where it takes us.
All right, roll the dice.
I wanted to start this off by saying I'm not anti or pro-vax. I'm pro-choice. With that being said, the issue at hand is information is being withheld from players in order for a player to be swayed in a direction he may not be comfortable with. When dealing with a player's health and safety, there should be complete transparency regarding information that is vital in the decision-making process. Without having all the proper information, a player can feel misguided and unsure about a very personal choice. It makes a player feel unprotected and gives concerns about future topics regarding health and our ability to make educated decisions. With regard to our overall safety, we have to know we are armed with full knowledge and understanding that those who are in a position to help us will always do that based on our individual situation. Some people may think that I'm being selfish in making this a me thing. It is all about the young players who don't have a voice and are reaching out to me every day because they're being told if they don't get vaxxed, they'll be cut. Agents are being told by teams if they have unvaccinated guys, they will not be given opportunities as of now to be seen in workouts. So once unvaxxed players get cut, they're losing a dream they have worked their whole lives for over a vaccine that has proven to not keep people from contracting COVID, as we've seen. Every doctor I've gone to with questions begins every sentence with, from what we know now, which tells me we don't know enough. The NFLPA is working to have vaccinated players tested more frequently than what the NFL initially stated. A lot of players got the vaccination with the idea that these rules were already set in stone, and they're not. It is common sense that if a vaxxed or unvaxxed player is tested less frequently, the likelihood of a player being pulled for COVID drops dramatically. In regard to player safety, I will conclude by saying we all want to be safe. For so many players around the NFL, safety does not solely mean avoiding the COVID virus. Our health is the now and years beyond, which we are trying to protect with our personal choice, while doing all the things we did in our protocol during a very successful 2020 NFL season. That's kind of where the issue has been for me this whole time.
That's Bill's wide receiver, Cole Beasley, who has been in the middle of this, fighting the pro-choice, as he put it, battle on social media. So what a great opportunity to welcome in Will Compton of Bussin' with the Boys. Subscribe, rate, and review wherever it is that you get your podcast. New episode available now, The Young Wolf, solo on the podcast today. Buddy, I didn't mean to drop you into the middle of the vaccine conversation, but here you are. Maybe he's there. Will?
Yeah, I'm here.
So we dropped you into the middle of a vaccine conversation that I did not intend to do. But we'll get to that in a second. How are you? You look well. You're not at training camp here. I wish you were.
I'm doing well, man. Maybe better than you. I see you got a little fan back there. I'm sure it's brought to us all by All American Pest Control, but I'm sitting in the AC currently.
Yes. The fan behind me and the multiple mini waters that I've been chugging to assuage the heat, brought to you, of course, by All American Pest Control. Plans starting as low as $39. Visit yuckbugs.com. They present our weekly visits with Will Compton. So we're out here at Titans training camp. You and I discussed this prior to today's show. What a gag it would be to have the general manager of the football team on the radio show, and then to have you show up basically panhandling for a job, and we were not able to execute this. What the hell?
Yeah, you mentioned the whole protocol for being tested and everything else, so I just figured it'd take too long. Like I would have to wait a certain amount of time or something. I just at the end of the day, I was too lazy to do that.
Well, that is not something that we would put on a resume for Will Compton, who is currently applying for jobs in the NFL right now. Bussing with the boys at Bussin' WTB is where you need to follow him at Bus Stop WTB, the newest feature that you can check out as well. So I guess what are you feeling right now? Because this is not the first time that last year you also did not start, if I remember correctly, the NFL season on a training camp roster. Am I accurate in saying that? Do I remember correctly?
Yeah, I didn't come to the boys until 10 days before the first game.
Right. So what I guess has that last year was weird anyway, with lack of off season, lack of preparation, making all of these things harder to get through from a transaction standpoint. But I guess how are you processing right now this time of year and not being with the team?
I mean, there's good and bad on both sides. Like me personally, I feel like I'm in a good headspace. I've went through this period twice, 2 years in a row now. 2 years ago, before I think I got to the Saints 48 hours before the third preseason game, and then last year I got to the Titans 10 days before the first game. But I'm feeling good right now, man. I mean, my health is good. I feel good physically. I'm ready to go. Last year, I know I sat on like I had an offer from the Raiders all the way up until the Titans came into the picture. So it's more of a personal choice to try and finesse a little bit of training camp with given the age I'm at now, and the wear and tear on your body. But also, if there's a good opportunity and a good situation to go into to where you're competing for a starting job, I would much rather be in a training camp sooner rather than later.
So what the hell? That, by the way, turned into a kind of athlete interview that I've never done in the history of my career, and I'm very upset with myself for asking that kind of a question.
That's what happens, man. Like when you
I
ask
was
that
so
question,
pissed.
You're at the Titans facility right now. I feel like I'm there. Like I'm getting interviewed as a player.
What happened? This
Like John's behind you somewhere. You know what I mean?
He probably is. There's cameras all over this place. He's got the radio show LoJack to see what kind of things you're saying as a prospective job candidate. But I mean, I guess that comes into, you're talking about choice in a different matter of things. And I'm not going to ask you whether you're vaccinated or not. I don't feel those are appropriate questions. HIPAA, yeah, okay, Dak Prescott, who doesn't know what the hell HIPAA is. Idiot. I can't. You're gonna upset me. I'm not even. But out of respect, I don't ask that question. Okay, that's your prerogative if you want to share it with people or not. But you are aware of what the NFL has done with the nuclear option if people are to forfeit games because of unvaccinated players causing breakouts. The NFL is basically having the players and the franchises cover the cost of the missed game, forfeiting paragraph 5 money, their salaries, in essence. Not just the player who caused the outbreak, but players on that team to make up for the financial losses that the NFL would experience. Tannehill was just at the podium about 200 yards from me and saying, he did get vaccinated, but he would not have done it if the NFL hadn't have forced his hand. I'm not asking you for a percentage, but he speaks for a great many people in the league right now, doesn't he?
Yeah, I would say no question. I'm personally vaccinated for the sake of if I get an opportunity, it's smooth transitioning to get to the team. I did it for another selfish reason of going on the honeymoon. But also like me, I want it to be as easy as possible on me, given what the NFL has proposed. And essentially, if you're not vaccinated, you are going to have to go throughout the facility, and I'm sure they're taking even more extreme measures. I know the rules are the exact same from what I understand as last year.
Yeah.
But I know they're cracking. I'm sure that there will be a little more pettiness coming from the cracking down this year if you're not vaccinated. So me personally, I'd rather sleep an extra 30 minutes, not have to get tested every day, be able to leave my hotel room when we go to away games, and enjoy some dinner with the boys. But like that was my own reasons. But if the NFL had not put all those restrictions and everything in place, I probably would not be vaccinated right now.
No, because I went after DeAndre Hopkins last week. I was not gentle in how I reacted to his what I felt to be an empty threat, pondering retiring from the NFL because of the way that, as Tannehill has expressed, they have forced players' hands to a degree into getting vaccinated, even if the individual player doesn't believe it's in their best interest. My contention was that he has all of the resources available to him. If he wants to talk to an internal medicine doctor with the Cardinals, he can do that. Somebody can set him up on a phone call. He has access to get the information that he seems to be, or is expressing on Twitter that he wants, but instead he's just bitching about it on Twitter, which made me, irked me a little bit, given that he has access to resources that so many other people don't. But then, after I cooled off and took my blood pressure medicine, as one tends to do, I looked at him and Cole Beasley and said, if you are somebody who passionately believes this, whether I agree or disagree with your opinions as to why you are not comfortable doing this, it has to be pretty damn lonely in the NFL right now if you are somebody who is comfortable taking that public stance. That can't be an easy thing to easy position to put a player in right now.
Yeah, I mean, there's so many opinions and stances out there. Like, I was talking to one of my boys yesterday on Washington, and they're like probably the lowest. They have like the lowest rate in the league. I want to say not even. I think they were at 30%. Now they might be at 40 or 50. Because I saw your tweet today saying with J-Rob talking about they were 90% vaccinated on the Titans. We're living in a weird, I don't even want to say weird. You almost hate speaking about it because there's so many people out there that want to make it their own problem and their own prerogative to tell you how you should live and should not live. It's like at the end of the day, like, yes, the NFL's made it very hard no matter what your opinion is. But if you want to play ball, it's like, you're going to have to take those extreme measures to play football and get paid that way and everything else that comes with it. So,
God, what the hell is this interview today? We're doing very self-serious. Oh my God, the sprinklers just came on. I thought they were going to hit me in the face. I just absolutely panicked. Jesus Christ. But
it's like, where do you expect to go with a vaccination conversation? You know what I mean? It's like, you don't want to say too much. Like, number one, I don't want to say nothing, and then you start blowing up, and then you get all petty, and you start acting like a child. Like,
would I do that to you? Do you think I would do that to you?
No, I just said that to get it out of the mold of this PC interview that we're having.
This PC interview. Yeah, I know. Everybody gets to football season, and immediately everything gets whitewashed. I'm seeing Lucas just sent me a tweet, by the way, from your colleague, Pro Football Talk. What is it? PFT commenter. Why am I blanking on the name of the podcast? It's one of the most popular podcasts in all of sports right now. Pardon My Take. Good God. PFT commenter from Pardon My Take. Adam Schefter is tweeting about Aaron Rodgers right now because apparently he's starting fires in Green Bay at his press conference, and PFT has tweeted him, announce Will Compton to the Panthers. What the hell are you doing on social media with the with potentially?
That's your way in to get on that topic. That's all that is, Buck. You're trying to use PFT and Twitter and everything else. You can go ahead and ask me just man to man. You don't need to use all these other outlets.
No, I was trying to be creative. I was trying to be creative in how we brought it to the conversation rather than asking you, what the hell are you doing on the internet, you idiot?
Oh, man, I'm just I'm being me. I'm clearly bored and everything else. No, I did not expect. At the end of the day, I should have done better editing that damn photo.
That was so stupid. It was so stupid.
I took it lightly. I took it too lightly. And yeah, now I guess PFT's tweeting that, which I'm sitting here like, oh, son of a gun.
Yeah, that's right.
But yeah, I was supposed to be at a workout. Not supposed to. I was offered to go and work out with the inclination that I would sign after the workout. And, it's not the right time to do that for what is being offered.
Which is in line with the rest of our answers today. Will Compton of Bussin' with the Boys here with us on 104.5 The Zone. All right, let's talk about things that we actually want to talk about. Football. There is a totally different cast of characters out here playing defense for the Titans this year. There is no Adoree Jackson. There is no Kenny Vaccaro. There's no Daquan Jones. It is striking to me now that I finally see them on the field together, just how different this group is. I guess having been a part of this defense last year, do you think it was necessary to kind of nuke that side of the ball the way that they seem to do, whether it was with the secondary and with everything else that was happening on the defensive line, and no Clowney and no Beasley and all these things, respectfully? But what was your worldview of all of that while it was happening?
Buck, look, man, you're sitting at the Titans facility right now, and you don't want this interview to be PC, but you're going to sit here and talk about, do you think that they should have nuked the defensive side of the ball? Like, I'm not going to have some headliner comment that says they should have done this or that. The Titans thought.
No, I'm not asking. I'm not asking you for a headliner comment. I guess I'm trying to put you in a position where you can answer the question. So maybe I'm doing a bad job. But at
the end of the day, the Titans felt like they wanted to make some changes, whether or not it's contractually, because there's other stuff going on to create some cap space and stuff earlier in the year. So you had to do things of that nature. It wasn't solely based on the objective view of being like, oh, the defense was ranked here, we need to get rid of everybody and bring in new people. I'm sure there's just a collection of things that went into kind of revamping the defense. I mean, they still got Kevin Byard there. They still got some pieces there. They've added pieces like Dupree and the rookies that are coming in, and some corners and DBs and all that fun stuff. But it's a lot of new faces. I'm sure the boys are going to do great. I'm sure, they're going to do great.
They're going to do great. Will Compton. I'm sorry, buddy. I'm trying. I really am.
I know you can't help it. You're just at their practice right now.
It's football season. What do you want me? We are going to talk about football from time to time. But in the meantime, there's a new podcast out, Bussin' with the Boys. It's a solo pod. The YouTube debut.
Did you listen?
I did listen.
No, you didn't. You don't have time for me right now.
I do. Well, it is true to a degree, but I did listen to probably about 45 minutes of it this morning while I was getting ready for work before I waddled out to the practice field to sweat off all the extra weight I'm trying to lose before football season so I can keep in accord with our bet. But no, after doing a solo podcast, which wasn't really solo because you have all of your cronies surrounding you, so you're not talking to nobody the way that I do it for 3 hours a day. What did you make of the solo experience?
Yeah, I was definitely, whether or not it came off that way, I was nervous inside just because I'm used to just talking with people. I'm used to bantering back and forth, having a soundboard. You know what I mean? Like I was telling the boys in the back, I'm like, hey, don't interject whenever you guys are wanting to. Like anytime it goes and it's too quiet on there, I just get a little like, all right, well, if what I'm saying is it hitting, I can only imagine what you go through on a daily basis when you got to sit in front of your webcam at home in your room and talk.
The primetime show, that's a totally different beast.
That's what I'm saying. Like it's just, everyone, I seem to be getting some solid reviews right now. I don't know if they're just telling me that to stroke my ego or whatnot, but no, it was solid. That was my first time, and I still don't really know what to make of it.
No, they're saying nice things to you. And I mean, okay, and I don't just say this because you're my friend, even though I struggle when I have to admit that publicly. You did not suck. You did not suck. I mean, it's uncomfortable. Sure. I mean, not that anybody's interested in the broadcast critiques that I have for Will Compton, because Bussin' with the Boys is going to be successful no matter what, because these stooly zombies are going to follow you, off the edge of the cliff.
God, why you got to call them stooly zombies, dude?
Because
they're
are
tier
zombies.
Ones. They're part of the wolf pack.
Yeah, okay, well, the Wolfpack mindlessly does whatever you want them to do and then buys a bunch of T-shirts and then makes it so Barstool can sponsor a bowl game in college football this year. It's not a bad thing. I wish I had more zombies, I'll be honest with you.
I know you do. That's why, you've been wanting that check mark. I know you want your fan base as well. What do you call your fan? What do you got
me personally?
Yeah.
Let's coin one. Let's coin one right now, Will.
Yeah, what would you want to call them, Buck?
Bucks
the
babies.
Buckies?
No, ew. None of this is gonna go well.
The Buckeyes?
The Buckeyes, no. That would make Mike Vrabel very happy. I don't know.
Sons of a Buck?
Don't get too close. I don't have a dump button out here at training camp. I can't save you if you don't help us here. No, I think I think I like the unwashed masses. They are the unwashed masses. These are my people.
Yeah, I think you just like to create a little more chaos that you can't necessarily get on. You can't necessarily like. It's just people who kind of hate the world. So I don't know what you call that.
Who likes me?
I don't know who likes you.
They call that anarchists.
They want it all to burn.
I believe
as well.
Scott in the chat said your fan base should be the Rising.
Oh, just the Rising?
Just the Rising.
Okay.
Hey, that's solid. I like that.
We got a shout
right.
for the Bucksters. I mean, we could do this all day.
No, we cannot do this all day because this is terrible radio. We're not going to do this all day. But I will. We will push through the T-shirts for the Rising contingent after we.
See, that's why you got to have. That's why you have a podcast, Buck, because podcasts are more fun than radio. The fact that you're like, oh, this is bad radio. It's like, okay, well, we're having fun. So who cares?
No, you just started having fun because I quit asking you questions about the Titans defense. Don't lie to me.
Yeah, I know. Titans defense, vaccinations, and then my workout.
Well, welcome to football season, big boy. We're back. No, go check out the YouTube page. The YouTube episode debuts tonight, 6 p.m. Subscribe to Bussin' with the Boys wherever it is that you get your podcast. He did not suck, which is about as high a praise as I am comfortable giving Will Compton of Bussin' with the Boys.
I'll take it.
All right, buddy. Thanks for hanging out. Presented by
See you,
All
brother.
American Pest Control. Will Compton joining us here on the show. All right, let's wrap this up because I'm sweating. Let's do some polls when we come back. I'm Buck Rising. This is 104.5 The Zone.
Need a Titans fix? Bam! Just ask Alexa to play 104.5 The Zone. Your home for Titans football and the flagship for Titans radio. 104.5 The Zone.
broadcasting live from St. Thomas Sports Park. Titans training camp officially underway. As normal as I've felt about my job in God knows how long, to be able to come out, to be able to see football players on a practice field, to be able to interact with my media colleagues, to be able to do interviews in person, even if there's a certain amount of social distance in between. I'm excited about the prospect of it. But before we do the polls and wrap up the show, just a few observations. Rep Ryan of Titans Radio was circulating the various practice fields, keeping an eye on things for us. We did see Taylor Lewan leave with a trainer, then return to practice. It's unclear how much he was able to do. Again, A.J. Brown out here, Julio Jones considered limited throughout the course of the day, not going through all of the drills. So something to keep an eye on, and that's probably going to be a theme, right? I mean, this is something that we've talked about, the new secondary being able to work out with Julio Jones and A.J. Brown and them being benefiting from it. And the point that I continue to bring up for people is, Julio Jones famously doesn't practice in the last 2 years. Training camp, we will probably see a larger sample size of him. We will probably see him working more to make sure that he's up to speed with his new team, given that it's the first time that he's on a new team in a decade in the NFL. But Julio Jones, something just to kind of keep in mind as before you fret too much about how much or how little Julio Jones is doing on the actual practice field. Now, Rep Ryan pointed out something to me that I wasn't able to see from our vantage point out here on the third field, which I will not report on just in the event that I run the risk of having the hand of God or the hand of Mike Vrabel strike me down for anything said or observed on the third field. But something Rhett did point out to me today is there were too many guys on the ground. It was getting too physical for a, helmet and shorts practice, basically. You're trying to keep these guys on their feet. You're trying to keep these guys upright. And again, this is the first time that they've done the act of something that looks like football in the better part of, a month and a half. And for a lot of these guys, like Taylor Lewan and A.J. Brown, it's been quite some time since they've been able to get this thing in gear and try and go through all of the muscle memory, all of the physical routine that they've so often associated with their practice. But that's going to be something to monitor, and Mike Frable and Jon Robinson are emphasizing that point to them as well, because the thing that is at the utmost importance for anybody at any point throughout the course of the next couple of weeks is health. Health is paramount. If you have nothing else, you are trying to make sure that your team stays as healthy as humanly possible, whether that's via, vaccination or making sure that you're not taking dudes to the ground in the first day of training camp practice. Meantime, polls.
I don't know who you are, but I know what it's time for. A poll update on the Buck Rising Show. Here's a young man with a very particular set of skills. With the final numbers, here's Buck Rising Show correspondent and producer, Lucas Panzica.
What's the dumbest thing in sports this week? Majority of entries, of course, are the people telling Simone Biles to toughen up and TJ Ward. So we'll go outside of that a little bit. Christian McCaffrey ranked higher in Madden 22 than the King, says AZ.
Is that so? Does Christian McCaffrey have a higher Madden rating than Derrick Henry?
Someone said Henry is a 95, so McCaffrey must be higher than that, maybe like a 97.
So why do I care?
I don't know. AZ thinks it's the dumbest thing in sports this week.
But it's not even in sports. It's in video games. Like, what? I mean, I guess you can be, and I shouldn't diminish, given that one of the Tennessee Titans, Roger Saffold, owns a competitive gaming team. So I guess, I cannot be dismissive of it in that way. But, do we really care? Are we really bent out of shape about Madden ratings? Is this what we're going to do? Surely to God, we have better things to talk about at this point. I don't care that Christian McCaffrey is ranked or is rated higher in Madden than Derrick Henry. All I care about, if I'm a Titans fan, is that he continues to be, unstoppable. By the way, did you see that Derrick Henry hype video yesterday?
Yeah,
he put out on his Instagram page. Oh my God. Oh my God. That is all credit in the world to that video editor who found some way to make Derrick Henry more intimidating with Meek Mill as the soundtrack in the background. Jesus.
Who gets more targets this season? 80% of over 400 votes say A.J. Brown over Julio Jones.
Wait, run that back for me again?
80% of voters, when asked who gets more targets this season, said A.J. Brown over Julio Jones.
80%, you say?
80% of 420 votes.
Now, do we think that's just because people are assuming that Julio Jones is going to, attract the attention, but then A.J. Brown is going to be able to maximize single coverage or something like that? Because 80%, that's a vast majority of people. I wonder why that's so.
The familiarity with Ryan Tannehill, cited by Farsender. I think we agree that A.J. Brown will likely get more targets than Julio Jones. It is surprising that it's that overwhelming of a number.
Do we? Here's what I'll say. Okay, they were. In fact, Lucas, if you can look this up for me quickly. In fact, why don't I have Christian do it? Christian, who's sitting here next to me. Christian, can you look up on Pro Football Reference how many targets A.J. Brown had last year and how many targets Corey Davis had last year? Because they're damn near even though A.J. Brown finished with the higher receiving yard total. And Corey Davis just like 15 yards shy of a 1,000-yard season, A.J. Brown eclipsing that mark. But I think they were damn near even in targets in 2020. I don't expect them to stray much from that kind of philosophy, no matter who it is on the field.
Which Titans player needs to have the best training camp? Jeffrey Simmons, Amani Hooker, Rashad Weaver, or Harold Landry? 34% say Amani Hooker, 29% say Landry, 26% Weaver, only 11% say Big Jeff.
Yeah, I'm going to bank that for tomorrow's show because I think there's a larger, more in-depth discussion that we need to have in that regard. There are a lot of interesting case studies between the rookies and the second-year players that I think people are going to hyper-focus on because we still don't really know after a season. And this is not it's not uncommon for you to be scrutinizing a sophomore class to see whether they hit what's called the sophomore slump. But certainly it's basically like having two rookie classes for as little as last year's draft class was able to do.
Which sophomore player for the Titans has the most to prove? Christian Fulton, Darrington Evans, Laurel Murchison, or Tier Tart? 83% of over 400 votes say it is Fulton, 12% Evans, 4% Tart, only 1% Murchison.
Yeah, I guess people are just kind of looking at Murchison like, until you give us a reason to pay attention to him, we are not going to acknowledge him. Okay, so here's the Tart. Thank you, Christian, who is out here helping us make sure that I stay on the air today. A.J. Brown, 101 targets last year. Lucas, guess how many Corey Davis had?
A.J. Brown had 101, you said?
Yes.
Corey Davis, I'm going to go 98.
90. So
Okay.
close. Not quite even. A little bit of disparity, but I just don't imagine it strays that much from the formula that they have. In fact, I think Ferkser's going to eat in this particular offense. I think we're going to see. I want to talk about Ferkser more in detail tomorrow, and we've asked to see if he'll join us on the radio show. By the way, Rashaan Evans on the radio show tomorrow. A lot of interesting topics to get into with the Titans inside linebacker in a contract year. So look forward to that. Mike Keith, voice of the Titans as well. I don't know why I'm doing this because I think we still have more polls.
One more. Do you support Simone Biles stepping back to focus on mental health? 74% say yes, 600 votes here, 26% do not.
Well, 26% of you, I'm sorry, you need to be better. You need to be better. I don't know if you've ever experienced mental health issues in your lifetime, but you may have done them and not had any scrutiny on you at all. Simone Biles has literally the weight of a country on her shoulders outside of dealing with mental health issues. She made the right decision, and I'm glad for her that she did. That's going to do it for the radio show, live from Titans training camp. We are out here for the rest of the week. Many great guests to come. Remember, Mike Keith and Rashaan Evans on tomorrow's show. And we'll take you through the rest of the week. Meantime, Blaine and Mickey going to keep you entertained.
The 3HL gets realistic.
I'm going to be realistic. It's realistic. I'm going to be realistic. 9 out of 10. The energy is in the building. The energy is out here on the street. When you feel this, you play for a different reason.
The 3HL with Brent Doherty, Don Davenport, and Ron Slay. This afternoon starting at 3. 104.